Welcome to Effective Teaching and Learning for Secondary Science. This is Module 1.2. In this module, we'll examine traditional science teaching methods compared to modern science teaching methods, or in academic terms, pedagogy. Traditionally, science teaching has taken a didactic lecture format. That is, the teacher was seen as the holder of all knowledge who bestowed such knowledge upon students. Students were passive participants in the learning process, listening to the lecture and taking notes. Thus, students were expected to absorb the information, memorize the information, and reciprocate the information, what we know today as rote memorization. However, considering what we know about social learning theory, we understand today the importance of students having opportunities to actively construct knowledge. Thus, with modern methods of science teaching that enhance students' opportunities for active engagement, we see students constructing new knowledge, challenging this new knowledge, and engaging in a construction-reconstruction process. Providing students with opportunities to be active participants in the learning process ultimately leads to meaningful learning. Modern science teaching has focused on concrete experiences, what is also known as hands-on experiences. These types of experiences follow along the lines of Dewey's ideas of constructivism, in that children learn by doing. Concrete experiences allow physical manipulation of materials and, thus, assist in the development of new ideas regarding the natural world, construction of new ideas, and construction of new meaning. And, as supported by social learning theory, the development of new ideas can be influenced and even facilitated by social interaction. In the modern view of science education, we also see the inseparability of doing science from knowing science. That is, with traditional science teaching methods, students were asked only to know science. With modern science teaching methods, we recognize that knowing scientific facts isn't enough. Students must be able to do something with that knowledge. Therefore, knowing science and being able to do science are inextricably linked. Science, then, is seen as a practice that refers to doing something and learning something in such a way that the doing and the learning cannot be separated. With the shift in perspective from traditional methods to modern methods of science teaching, many teachers have begun to incorporate concrete or hands-on experiences in the classroom. However, studies support that oftentimes these activities are not designed or implemented in ways that allow the full potential of student learning. For instance, three crucial elements of effective hands-on experiences have been cited as being often forgotten in the planning and implementation process. 1. Connections to students' lives. 2. Opportunities for reflection. And 3. Clearly defined conceptual goals. Let's consider each. The first crucial element is connections to students' lives. What is meant by this is that teachers oftentimes forget to make a clear connection between the science activity, and thus the new science knowledge, and what students already know, as well as how the activity or new knowledge relates to their own personal lives. In other words, how the information is relevant to the students above and beyond knowing the information to pass a test. Therefore, it is very important for teachers to activate students' prior knowledge. Once determining what students already know, the teacher can then assist students in building on this prior knowledge. And finally, the teacher should then incorporate strategies that make science personal to students. That is, helping students to see how the science content is personally relevant and useful to them. The second crucial element to concrete or hands-on activities is providing opportunities for reflection. Oftentimes, this step is forgotten, perhaps due to the amount of time that teachers perceive that this step might take, and given current time restraints in the classroom, how teachers might think that this step is not realistic. However, I would argue that this is one of the most critical steps to all learning experiences, as it is key to the process of active engagement in that the student is allowed to think about, manipulate, and consider alternate perspectives in a reflective process, thus engaging in higher order thinking skills, and hopefully assisting in the transfer of new knowledge from short-term memory to long-term memory, thus making the connection between hands and mind. Likewise, when students are able to see the learning process through self-reflection, it can also act as a motivator to increase students' engagement in future learning activities. The third crucial element to concrete or hands-on experiences is clearly defined conceptual goals. What is meant by this is considering where the active experiences will lead. Concrete experiences should not be implemented just for the sake of giving students something to do with their hands. Rather, these types of activities should be designed and implemented with an end goal in mind. And this end goal should be shared with students so that they know what they should be getting out of the experience as well. Thus, concrete experiences should entail a logical progression towards new ideas, while building on prior knowledge and current experiences, with the purpose of extending thinking towards an end goal. So now that we know what elements should be included when designing and implementing concrete or hands-on experiences, let's now consider the elements that are necessary for the construction of knowledge and the creation of meaningful learning opportunities. Recall our previous discussion on meaningful learning opportunities. What do you think these opportunities look like? Take a moment to consider this question and reflect on what you know about this topic. Koch 2013 suggests several characteristics for meaningful experiences. She states that meaningful experiences should relate to students' everyday lived experiences and to a larger, overarching concept or big idea. Meaningful experiences should engage students in the key processes of science, such as observing and predicting, inferring and hypothesizing, manipulating objects, investigating, and imagining. Likewise, Koch explains that meaningful experiences should stimulate the students to reflect on what they are exploring and to come up with their own ideas, thus revealing the student's own thinking, leading to metacognition, which ultimately leads to new understanding. In conclusion of today's video lesson, I encourage you to consider how you as a teacher can make science meaningful for your learners. As such, you are strongly encouraged to review the supplementary reading provided in your Moodle shell as shown on your screen. Then, brainstorm the characteristics of meaningful 21st century science learning. Finally, consider what you think the top 5 characteristics are and how you might incorporate those in your science teaching.